Whether you're looking to experience more love from yourself or more love from another person, or maybe a combination of both, it's an essential conversation that we have about living with an open heart and keeping your heart open. And I specifically wanted to speak into this topic today. I've been feeling that it's been a heavy time, right? It's been heavy couple of months, even a heavy couple of years. Like, you might feel similar to me, as I feel like we just haven't stopped getting hit since COVID. It was like we lived in a different world before COVID. And with COVID, I think awareness of a lot of social issues came, right? We had Black Lives Matter. That was a big one during COVID. And, COVID brought into awareness certain environmental issues. And since COVID, we've had multiple wars erupt. And it's been a tense time in our world. It's been a heavy time to be alive. And it feels like it's just been one thing after another, after another, after another. And we just keep getting hit with stuff. If you think back to how things were before COVID, it's not that these things weren't happening, right? It's not that war is new or any of this stuff is new. The environment was being destroyed well before COVID. But I think what's happened since COVID is our relationship to it has changed. And maybe it's because, we realized how connected we all are, where a disease could begin over in China and, within a matter of months, it could consume the entire world. And you realize, like, we're really not that separate. I think we used to live in this kind of mentality where if something was happening on the other side of the world, it didn't really have anything to do with me. Now we're, I think, starting to realize that we're really all in this together. Specifically in the last few weeks, we've had what's happening in the Gaza, which is just devastating. I think it's very obvious that everything that's happening over there is not loving. And I might be being Captain Super Obvious right now, right? But the truth is that we live in a world where love is not the primary concern, and love is not the most important thing. And, profits are important, control, power, domination, these are important. And these are the things that are put in the way of love. And really, if I were to share my thoughts on it, is that, like, these are my thoughts. And first of all, I think what's happening is just awful. I think what's happening over there is just devastating and heartbreaking and horrible. And it's just so sad to wake up every day and live with the awareness that kind of suffering is happening for so many people. That's my first thought on it. My next thought is that the war that we experience in the world, the wars that we experience externally are reflections of the wars that we experience internally, right? And all of the violence in the world and all of the pain and the suffering that people are causing to each other on the macro scale, when we talk about global levels of war, and on the micro scale, where we talk about the kinds of wars that are acted out in the dating world, or the kinds of wars that are acted out in our personal relationships and our marriages, right? And all of it is a reflection of the war that's going on within our own heart. And it's devastating what's happening over there right now. And just like it's devastating what's happening in the Ukraine, it's devastating what's happening in other parts of the world where there is starvation and hunger. It's devastating, it's awful, but it's not new. This is the way it has been for a long time, and it is going to be this way. It's going to continue to be this way. And, this war will pass and another one will start up. And it's going to continue to be this way until we as human beings, as a collective, start to make love the priority in the world. And as long as profits and control and domination and, me making sure I'm taken care of, but not caring if you're taken care of, as long as those are the themes that dominate our world, war and hunger and poverty and all of it is going to be present in our world. I've been thinking a lot, like, what can I do? And I always think about this, like, I'm not a victim. I understand what's not going on in the world, and I also think about what can I do, because I am not a victim and I do have power. And what I've come to, and I think I would invite a lot of us to come to this conclusion, is that the only thing I can really do about it is make a point to heal the war within my own heart. The more I can heal the war that's happening within my own heart, and the more I share that stronger vibration of love in the world, the more I'm going to impact other people to awaken the love that's inside of them, right? Which is why I'm here today. It's why I'm having this conversation with you. Because the more I share my vibration of love, and the more I put that out in the world, the more that's going to touch other people and awaken the same within them. And if I can awaken that in someone else, and they can awaken that in themselves, and then awaken it in someone else, and that person can awaken it in someone else, and on and on and on and on and on. And if we all recognize our personal responsibility that we have in that, we each recognize, like, we each have a place in this world. We each have the opportunity to make a positive difference in this world. Like, when you get up out of your bed in the morning and you go out into the world and you go to work, or you go to your school, or you go to, be with your kids, or whatever you do in your day. When you get up and you go out into the world, you have a choice if you're going to teach love or if you're going to teach fear, if you're going to teach peace or if you're going to teach conflict. And everyone around you, everyone that you interact with, is learning from the lessons that you teach, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. The more we each take that personal responsibility to teach only love, for that is what we are, right? So the more we each take that personal responsibility to teach only love in the world, because that is what we are, the more we will see our world transform, and we'll be able to stop the wars, stop the hunger, stop the famine, stop the poverty. We'll be able to heal the environment and stop the extinction of the human race. Like, this is really what's at stake right now. Like, 100 years from now, humanity isn't going to survive if we don't turn it around. I say all of this to say that, we do have power in it. We might not have the power as one individual to go and stop the war, right? But we do have the power to choose to show up every day in a way that will create a spillover effect, that will create a transformation that could lead to the end of war in the biggest sense. The question becomes, it's the same question I said earlier, where as long as we place power and profit and control and domination, as long as we place all of these things above love and make these things more important than love, then war and famine and poverty and hunger and starvation and sadness and grief, like, that's gonna be what the world is. That happens on a macro scale, like I've been talking about, but it also happens on a macro or micro scale. What are the things in your life that you are making more important than love? There are a lot of things, actually. It's really easy to get up and say, well, I teach only love, or I love everyone. Or, it's really easy to say that, but then you look at how you operate, and you look at, in each moment of your day, were you operating from love, or was something else present there? And where were you operating from righteousness? Where were you operating from fear? Where were you operating from a need to be in control or manipulate that situation to get a certain outcome? Where were you trying to get someone else to have something that is not necessarily in their best interest, because you thought them getting that would lead to you getting something that's in your best interest? We do that a lot. We don't always like to admit or own that, but we do that a lot. It's important to start to face up to these things because, we've been taught, we grew up in a world we were taught I win, you lose, right? We were taught that if there's $5 on the table and I pick it up, I have $5, and now everyone else in the room is out $5. And we were taught that's how life works, right? That I need to take what I can get for myself and screw everybody else, hope they can figure it out, but not my problem. That's not the way love works. And to the degree that you operate on that principle, right? The I win, you lose principle. To the degree that you operate on that principle is the degree that you will suffocate all the love out of your life. And this happens when we get into a relationship with someone where, everything's great in the beginning, but then the fear starts to creep in, right? And I know I've spoken about this before. If you can think about a recent relationship that you've been in, and you think about that moment that the fear started to creep in, right? That moment, like, everything was great, everything was wonderful, it was flowing, it felt good, we were into each other, we were reciprocating the effort, we were excited, it was all going well. And then you think about that moment, that first moment of fear in a new relationship. And I want you to just, each of you who are listening right now, I want you to just take a moment and see if you can remember in a recent relationship, maybe you're currently with someone, or maybe you're just getting out of a relationship, or maybe you dated someone recently, but whatever it is, I want you to think about that first moment of fear in a new relationship. I remember these experiences very well, where all of a sudden everything would be going great, and then maybe they don't respond to that text. Or maybe they say, I'm going out with a friend tonight, and you're like, who's this friend? Or maybe their ex calls them and they're like, yeah, I talked to my ex today, or whatever, right? It could be any of these things, but something activates that first moment of fear in you, and all of a sudden it's like, it's like the wind has been taken out of your sails. It's like the breath has been taken out of your lungs, and there's this sinking feeling, and there's this feeling of, am I gonna lose this? Is this not what I thought it was? Are they losing interest in me? Am I not going to get what I want here? And there's this moment of like sinking, like fear. And then what usually comes out of this is a need to exert some kind of control over the relationship, a need to manipulate something. So now I'm no longer showing up completely authentically. I might be showing up 90% authentically. I might be 90% myself, but there's just this little 10%. There's just this little part of me that feels like I can't totally be myself here because I need to control just a little bit of it. I just need to make sure that I'm going to get what I want. I just need to make sure that I'm going to be taken care of. I just need to make sure that I'm not going to be left alone, that I'm not going to be abandoned, that I'm not going to be hurt. When we talk about keeping our heart open, and topic for today is how to keep your heart open in hell. Right now, what is hell, right? Let's talk about that for a moment. How to keep your heart open in hell. Well, what is even hell? Well, this world can be hell. This world can be hell. And a lot of you, even as I say that, if you think about your personal experience and maybe you're in hell right now, or maybe you're not, but maybe you've been in hell and you know what that feels like. I think all of us at some point in our life have been in hell. And it's because, and I don't want to harp on like the negatives of the world. I think there is so much good in this world. There's so much beauty and love and magic that can be experienced in this world. When we're viewing life through survival, or when we're viewing life through the fear that we're not going to get our needs met, or we're viewing life through our wounds or our fear of abandonment, right? When we're viewing life through that lens, we create a hell. And life feels very scary. We feel very alone. We feel very empty. We feel very deprived. We feel very unworthy. We feel very unwanted, unlovable. This is an experience that we create in our mind when we view the world through fear or not through love. And this creates hell. The truth is that as a child, we did not have the awareness to choose another perspective. And so as a child, like I remember the night when 9/11 happened. And I remember like literally I was maybe 10, 11 years old when 9/11 happened, something like that. I was laying in my bed and I just had this like overwhelming fear that like terrorists were going to come through my window and like kill me in my sleep. And obviously irrational. I mean, the chances of that actually happening were very, very unlikely, right? The reason I'm bringing this up right now is because we often think about it in terms of our personal lives. We think about how that person rejected us, or how, this person I like, are they going to like me back? Is this relationship going to become what I want it to be? We often think of it in terms of our personal life. Our personal life has a big impact. The experiences of growing up with our parents, the experiences of, dating when we're younger and as we get older and being on dating apps and getting ghosted, right? Like this has an impact. It has a huge impact. What also has an impact that we don't talk about so much is all of the less obvious stuff, right? The fact that there are thousands and thousands of people starving to death in Gaza right now, or the fact that, people in the Ukraine are having their homes and their lives invaded and they're being forced out of their homes, or the fact that there are people in, certain countries in Africa or in the Middle East or in India that like literally children are begging for food on the streets and starving to death. All of this has an impact on our mental health. All of this has an impact on how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about life, our ability to be authentic and free-spirited and happy. What happens to all of us, I would say, it happens to every single person. And maybe it happens in varying degrees. It happens more to some people and less to others. But this happens to all of us, is we're born into what seems like a very terrifying world, what seems like a very hard and cold and heartless world. That hurts, especially, we don't really have recollection of where we come from before we come into this life, but I truly believe we come from a very beautiful place. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your week. I'll see you next week. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.